Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you tonight. Stock markets under pressure across the world after two big financial stocks collapse. Shares of a major Silicon Valley bank plunged 60% after booking steep losses to its securities portfolio. Cryptocurrencies melt after a major lender called Silvergate decides to shut operations. Global jitters rock the Wall Street. The Sensex loses nearly 700 points. Nifty down over 170 points. Bank stocks take it on the chin. The Sensex and the Nifty have lost over 1% this week. HUL appoints Rohit Java as the MD and CEO for 5 years with effect from the 27th of June. Currently serving as Unilever's Chief of Transformation, the 57-year-old Java will succeed Sanjeev Mehta, who will retire after a decade at the helm. The first IPO from the Tata stable in close to 2 decades is coming soon. Tata Technologies files its IPO papers with Sebi. The IPO would see parent Tata Motors and others offload over 23% stake. Market regulator Sebi proposes that mutual funds trade through their own terminals or foot broking expenses. Sources say the proposal is still at a discussion stage. Asset management companies are protesting this move as it will hit their profit margins. That's a money control exclusive. India and the US sign a memorandum of understanding to establish a collaborative mechanism on semiconductor supply chain resiliency and diversification. US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo tells CNBC-TV18 that she sees great synergies with India on chip design and technology. Xi Jinping secures an unprecedented third term as president from China's largely ceremonial parliament, which voted unanimously for the 69-year-old leader. Xi was also named commander of the 2 million-strong People's Liberation Army. Russian missiles pound Ukraine, damaging critical infrastructure and residential buildings in 10 regions. Ukraine claims to have shot down 34 cruise missiles and 4 drones. Facebook's parent company Meta is hashing out a plan to build a standalone text-based app that can rival Twitter. The move comes at a time when Twitter is struggling to maintain its user base due to the chaos under new owner Elon Musk. Well, let's start with the global market sell-off that we've seen. Stocks under pressure across the world with 2 big financial stocks in the US taking a beating. Add to this the comments from the Fed Chief Jerome Powell earlier this week warning about faster and higher rate hikes. All these factors roiling sentiment across markets. And here's a data point that's moving the markets. In February, more than 3 lakh jobs were added to the economy compared to the expectation of just over 2 lakh jobs. The Fed has been arguing for rate cuts, citing the strength in the economy, and this data will only add more weight to the Fed's arguments for rate hikes. Rima standing by with a quick snapshot of the global market action. Rima, not looking good today.
No, absolutely not. In the Asian market picture, you had Hang Seng down 3%. The Korean markets dragged lower by 1%. The Hang Seng Chinese markets down nearly 1.5%. Well, there were 2 key events which took place, 2 financial accidents. The first one is SVB Financial, which is the parent company of a Silicon Valley bank, which largely banks tech startups. And SVB Financial plunged 60% yesterday. This is the lowest level that the stock is now trading in since September of 2016. The second big event was Silvergate Capital, and this is a US crypto-focused bank, which saw a decline of 42%, as they said that we are voluntarily winding down operations and we are also going to liquidate. So these were the 2 big events which took place yesterday, and this caused a ripple effect across the rest of the financial space. So take stock of the banking stocks. KBDW. This is the banking index. It's a benchmark banking index. It holds about 24 of the financial stocks, and it was down 7%, the steepest drop that we've seen in financials since June of 2020. What is the market worried about? The market is partially worried about potential losses in the huge bond portfolios held by other US banks as the interest rates have gone up, and they're also worried that the frothy corners of the market, the tech and the crypto space, could come under pressure. Remember, the SVB Financial caters to the tech startups, while Silvergate caters to the cryptos. And these are the 2 frothy areas in the market. Let me also point out a tweet which came in from Uday Kotak of Kotak Mahindra Bank. And he says the overnight developments in the US banking system. Analysts, investors underestimate the importance of financial stability for the balance sheet of a bank. When interest rates move up by 500 basis points from 0 in 1 year, an accident was waiting to happen somewhere. And that's what we had.
Well, Rima, many thanks for joining us. That's the global picture across Asia, but global market jitters rocking the Lal Street as well. The Sensex down nearly 700 points and the Nifty down 170. Bank stocks saw major cuts as investors turned cautious with the bank index losing 2%. Before the week, the Sensex and the Nifty are down about 1% and the Nifty Bank is down 2%. But this is the big story. The first IPO from the Tata stable in close to 2 decades is coming soon. Tata Technologies has filed its IPO papers with Sebi. The IPO will see parent Tata Motors and others offload over 23% stake. Sonia joins us now to give us a lowdown on the company. Sonia.
Well, it's a big day for the Tata Group. Tata Motors' wholly owned subsidiary Tata Technologies has filed a DRHP with the Sebi for an IPO. Now, this is important because this will be the first IPO from the Tata Group stable after 19 long years. The last one was way back in 2004 when TCS came out with its IPO. It also assumes importance as this is the first IPO from Tata Group under the tenure of N. Chandra, who took over in 2017. Now, Tata Technologies plans to sell up to 9.5 crore shares, which is a little under 24% of its paid-up share capital. Let's talk a little bit about Tata Technologies itself. It's the IT services arm of Tata Motors, catering to Jaguar Land Rover and Tata Motors products. The company provides a range of services including IT consultancy, SAP implementation and maintenance and design consultancy, and has a very strong financial track record. Now, the FY22 revenue growth was the strongest ever at 46% year-on-year. And even if you look at the 9 months of FY23, the revenues of Tata Technologies grew about 15%, profits were up 23%. And if you map the margin profile over the last many years, you'll notice that the adjusted margins have increased from 16.5% in FY20 all the way to 19.2% in 9 months of FY23. But what about Tata Motors shareholders? How do they benefit? The monetization of stake in Tata Technologies, of course, is a positive for Tata Motors. But the Tata Tech IPO, along with the receipts of consideration of the EV deal that Tata Motors did with TPG, will help reduce the company's debt. Tata Motors is now well on track to achieve zero debt on its India business versus about 12,000 crores debt as on December 2022. And with this IPO, we will now have 3 listed Tata Group IT companies, TCS, Tata Elxsi and now Tata Technologies. What are brokerages saying? Motilal Oswal put out a note where they said that they value about 25 to 47 rupees a share in Tata Motors for its stake in Tata Technologies. Back to you.
Sonia, many thanks for joining us. And the other big corporate story tonight, FMCG major HUL is set for a change of guard. Rohit Java will take over as Managing Director and CEO for a period of 5 years, starting the 27th of June. He will succeed Sanjeev Mehta, who's set to retire in April, having served at the helm of the company for 10 years. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now with more on Rohit Java. Shilpa.
From a management trainee to MD and CEO. This is not the first time this story is playing out at India's largest consumer conglomerate. Like his predecessor Sanjeev Mehta, Rohit Java, who has been appointed as the next MD and CEO of HUL, has been with the Unilever Group his entire career. He started at HUL as a management trainee in 1988 and has risen through the ranks to serve as the Chief of Transformation for Unilever in London. He will join HUL on the 1st of April as CEO designate and then will be elevated to MD and CEO in June. He comes to HUL with extensive experience in the Asian markets, having worked not just in India but also in Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia and China. Now, Rohit takes over HUL at a crucial time. The company and the FMCG industry have been grappling with inflation and weak demand, especially in rural markets. A recovery in demand and a resurgence in volumes will be key for HUL over the coming quarters, even as government data indicates a slowdown in urban discretionary spending. In addition, forecasts of El Nino are adding to the pressure as this phenomenon could derail a rural recovery. Java also has big boots to fill as he takes over from Sanjeev Mehta, but this won't be much of a challenge given Java's track record in both the Philippines and Chinese markets.
Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. And as Sanjeev Mehta prepares to hang up his boots after 31 years at HUL, here's a look back at his contribution and the legacy he leaves behind.
You have to create an environment where they can flourish.
Sanjeev Mehta is a classic example of a one-company man. He's been with Unilever for over 30 years. He headed the business at Bangladesh, Philippines, North Africa and Middle East. In 2013, he returned to India to head Hindustan Unilever as an outsider and turned it to an advantage.
Rural markets.
I was in Unilever for 21 years.
but I had not worked with Unilever in India. You know, when you come in as an outsider, you have an advantage. You can look at things with absolutely fresh pair of lens. There is nothing like a holy cow. You can challenge everything.
And challenge he did. Under Mehta, HUL's annual revenue nearly doubled from 27,000 crore rupees to more than 52,000 crore rupees. That's a compounded annual growth rate of over 8%. The company's market capitalization has zoomed nearly fivefold from just over 1 lakh crore rupees to nearly 5 lakh crore rupees. Mehta's leadership began with a simple mantra: culture, capability and communication. That became the axis for growth.
Of this millennium for the first 10, 11 years.
From Surf Excel to Rin, to Pepsodent to Close Up and Dove, HUL has more than 50 brands across its 3 divisions: home care, beauty and personal care, along with foods and refreshment. 16 of these brands have a turnover of more than 1,000 crore rupees. Under Mehta's leadership, HUL has managed to drive premiumization across all 3 categories, creating a total turnover of 10,000 crore rupees through just its high-value products. But that doesn't mean that non-premium categories have been ignored.
You look at growth is straddling the price-benefit pyramid. We have ensured that we occupy all the benefit space and all the price points in all the big categories.
Soon after Mehta took charge, HUL rolled out a new strategy for growth called Winning in Many Indias. The new structure transformed the company from a 4-branch structure at the front end to 14 distinct consumer clusters that roll into 5 sales branches based out of 7 locations. But this was easier said than done.
Winning in many Indias is recognizing that India is not a homogeneous entity. It's a very heterogeneous entity. If you travel across India, you will find that the language, of course, is different, the palate is different, the traditions are different, the category evolution is different, and in many cases, our competitors are different.
Mehta was not content with organic growth alone. In 2020, the company acquired GlaxoSmithKline's consumer healthcare business. With this, iconic brands like Horlicks, Boost and Maltova joined the HUL empire, making it the largest food and refreshment business in India. But more importantly, it's opened new doors for the company.
At some stage, you will see us unfolding, which is a big thrust for Unilever globally, is the space of vitamins, minerals and supplements.
Mehta has also been preparing HUL for a significant digital transformation.
The area which occupies the maximum amount of my personal time is reimagining HUL.
As Sanjeev Mehta gets set to retire, he leaves his successor a company with more than 50 successful brands and several businesses. A business where culture is the key connecting tissue and one that breeds high performance. In New Delhi with Sundar Rajagopal, this is Shireen Bhan. Well, the end of a significant decade there for Sanjeev Mehta at HUL. Sources say market regulator Sebi has proposed that mutual funds trade via their own trading terminals or foot broking expenses. However, the proposal is only at a discussion stage. Santosh Nair is standing by with the details. What's being proposed? What's the industry reaction, Santosh?
Well, what the Sebi is proposing, Shireen, is that so far the broking charges which mutual funds used to pay when they buy or sell shares in their equity portfolio, that was outside the total expense ratio which the mutual funds charge their unit holders. Now, what Sebi is saying is that this should become part of the total expense ratio, should be included within that. And one of the solutions or one of the options that Sebi has offered to mutual funds is that to bring down the cost, they could perhaps take membership on the stock exchanges and do the trades through their own terminals. This could bring down costs over the longer term, but mutual funds understandably are not very happy about this.
All right, Santosh, we'll be watching the space. Many thanks for joining us. India's industrial output grew by 5.2% in January versus 2.3% in the previous month. The growth rate is in line with the CNBC-TV18 poll. Electricity, infrastructure and manufacturing sectors have propelled growth in January. Consumer non-durables grew by 6.2%, indicating revival of rural demand. Boeing has announced that it will set up India's first facility to convert passenger planes into dedicated freighter conversion facility. The facility will be set up in Hyderabad in partnership with GMR Aerotechnique. Speaking with CNBC TV18, Boeing India President Salil Gupte said the partnership will bring next-level capability for freighter conversion in India. Take a look.
Orders are well over 1,000 now, given between both OEMs. I think it's probably over 1,200-1,300 now, given the latest Air India order that has been announced. We know there are more orders that will be coming on the way. Our customers have talked about those. I'll let them talk about those, not us. But I know that India can expect 2,200 aircraft coming in over the next 20 years. So you kind of have a sense for how high those orders might go here over the next few years.
Well, that's Boeing. 2 people have died of the H3N2 influenza virus in India, one in Karnataka, the other in Haryana. Government officials have said that the victim from Karnataka suffered from fever, sore throat, among others. Around 90 cases of the virus have been reported in the country so far. The Health Ministry has held a review meeting on the rising cases and has issued an advisory to states to closely monitor the situation. India and the US have inked a crucial pact to build an alternate semiconductor supply chain. The Memorandum of Understanding will entail a collaborative mechanism on supply chain resiliency and diversification, along with incentive programs. However, no specific firms have made any specific commitments yet. Abhimanyu Sharma gets us more.
An MOU has been signed between India and the US to enable better coordination over the issue of semiconductors. It will also determine the kind of incentives both the countries are going to give to semiconductor companies, and will assess a demand roadmap as far as the current supply of various chips is concerned.
India is home to a massive amount of semiconductor design talent. The United States leads the world in semiconductor design. We have synergy there.
We were able to come to a common understanding, which I am confident will help us, both the US and India, in expanding mutual cooperation and ultimately ensuring resilience in the supply of semiconductors.
India wants to ensure that market access for domestic companies is not adversely impacted by the trade pillar. It remains to be seen what further developments will take place in this domain, even as both the countries are working towards collaboration in various domains.
Abhimanyu, many thanks for joining us. We're heading into a break, but up next, as the war rages on in Ukraine, the birth rate has dropped sharply since Russia's invasion. A special report when we return.